cold as a razor blade.
But if you're watching here on YouTube, you can take a look over there. Kind of looks like Jake the Snake Roberts. So I should point this way. Sort of looks like Jake the Snake Roberts, but that is not Jake. That is gentleman Jack Vaughn. Jack, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
Man, it could not be more thrilled. I've been watching your videos for a while here, and a little peek behind the curtain for the listeners. Before we hit record, I sort of revealed to you what prompted me to ask you to fill in for Jake on this. And I saw where at one point you were making a little pitch to Jake. Maybe you could portray him.
Yeah, I mean they use a lot of wrestlers and a lot of lesser known wrestlers for to fill in the roles for stuff like Dark Side of the Ring. And I think really what prompted it was Mick Foley. I met Mick Foley and he was talking to certain wrestlers about portraying certain guys on Dark Side of the Ring. And I was kind of thinking like, who do I look like that they might actually do a story on, which, they already did a story on Jake's father. So, I don't know if they need another Jake, but if they ever do, I think I fit the bill.
We know a guy.
I might have to get a wig because I don't have Jake's mane that he had back in the day.
I'm follically impaired myself, so I can relate to that issue. But yeah, dude, I'm so thankful that you're coming on the show here. You kind of referred to yourself there as lesser known, but I don't know if that's the case anymore, brother. You're kind of all over them internets with the videos that you make. So let's start there. What prompted you to begin making some of these incredible pieces of content that you're putting out there?
It was literally just a suggestion from a guy that I went to a seminar for. So, I had started, the veteran character started in 2020. I had spent some time away from wrestling, thought that I was done, and then came back with this new character. And, for the first couple of years, I kind of just did, I did all of my social media in character. And it was just like, I would post a picture and then just have a caption that was just the bitter old man talking about the sport that he loved being destroyed. But there's a journeyman wrestler. He's been around a long time, Brutal Bob Evans. A lot of people have probably heard of him. He was doing a seminar at a show that I was on, and I had known Bob through social media, so I just decided to go and pick his brain. And he looked at me and he's like, Jack, I really like the way that you do social media, but I really think that you should start doing video content because that's the big thing right now. This was in 2022, so TikTok obviously was already huge. And I was kind of resistant to it because part of the idea that I had for the character was that I wasn't going to do social media because what would old school wrestlers, they didn't have social media. They did it the old fashioned way,
Yep.
But in this day and age, you kind of have to do social media. So, I was still resistant to it. I didn't really want to do TikTok, but I decided to go ahead and do a couple things, film a couple videos. And then I posted one. I posted it at like midnight because, I didn't know anything about if there was like a good time to post it. So I was like, I'll just figure out the app and I'll post this video. And then within 24 hours, it had 100,000 views. And then I posted the second video that I had and it got 200,000 views.
Wow.
And then I was like, oh crap. Like I panicked because I didn't have anything else to post. And I was like, oh my, but then I kind of realized like, oh my God, I kind of have something here. There were certainly like, I'm definitely not the first wrestler to do TikTok or to do like videos in character, but I was one of the first ones that it really took off. So I realized I kind of have something here. So I guess this is a thing now. This is just a thing that I do.
Man, it's working, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. I do have to ask though, I'm also an independent wrestler. I'm also in the content creation game with podcasts and everything that I do. But every once in a while, it's like I'll be thinking about something that I could post, and it's like draw a blank. What's your muse? Where do you get all of your ideas?
So I have I use the Notes app on my phone, and anytime that I even get just the tiniest bit of an idea, I write it down. Sometimes it's more fleshed out. Sometimes it's, like I said, just kind of a sprinkling of an idea. And then I'll kind of come back and workshop it. And, kind of like my bread and butter has always been the indie versus pro. And just over time, I've developed series that I know that I can kind of go back to whenever I need something. But really, it's just like whenever an idea pops in my head, I'm thinking about wrestling all the time. But I also get a lot of people that suggest things to me. And, a lot of times those ideas are really good. And I always try, whenever someone gives me an idea, I try to get them in the video if I can make it happen, just as a thank you. But honestly, and this is something that I don't know if a lot of people utilize, But I've had one of my videos that wound up doing over 1 million views was a video that I got from Chat GPT.
Ah,
So there's definitely like different, I'm not a huge AI guy, but I was just kind of like struggling for ideas. So I was just like, 10 ideas for satirical pro wrestling videos. And that was one of them.
how about that?
Yeah,
So, I mean, look, AI is out there. I'm also resistant to use it, even when it comes to, my podcast work. But it's there and it's a tool that people are using. So if you can use it to your advantage, why not, right?
for sure.
Now, let's rewind it a little bit and talk about some of your early fandom, specifically Jake the Snake Roberts. What are some of your earliest memories of being, watching Jake or, an experience around him, something like that?
So obviously, like, I mean, I've been a wrestling fan my whole life. I grew up watching it with my dad. I have very vivid memories of playing with my Hasbro toys out in my, in the garage and stuff. I think like Jake was obviously a staple of my childhood, but the first memory that like really stands out is the angle where Damien latches onto Randy Savage's arm. Like that is such an iconic, and I was probably like 5 at the time. I can't remember the exact year that it happened, but I was definitely very young. And, back then there was a lot more stigma around pro wrestling being fake, and people would always try to discourage you from watching it. My mom included, so it backfired on her. But, uh, but like that was one of those moments where I could look back and like, that is not fake. You cannot fake that. That
Hmm.
like, and I was like legitimately like terrified that Randy Savage was going to die because of the venom from Damien. Like I probably cried because I was a big Macho Man fan. But yeah, that was the first, like the most the earliest memory I have of like just an iconic Jake moment. And a fun fact about that moment is that the referee that was in the ring that allowed it to happen was Roger Ruffin, who is one of the men that helped train me.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
All right, little full circle moment there from
yeah, right,
childhood into your training.
yeah.
Now, obviously you're making the towns and doing, working a lot of indie places. Have you been around Jake personally? Asking him for advice. One of the things that Jake always says here on the podcast is like, I go to these shows and I just kind of hang out in the back. And if somebody wants to come up to me and ask me for advice, they can. But I think he's like, I think people might be a little bit intimidated. Were you around Jake at all? Get to ask him any questions?
The only times that I've been around Jake is at conventions.
Ah,
So he's always been very busy, obviously, at like his table. I've never been on a show with him. I mean, if I was, at the very least, I would have to get a picture with him just because he's Jake Roberts. But yeah, I mean, like I feel like that's the same way with a lot of guys. It is. I don't mind to go and ask people to watch my matches now, just because I've been around so long that I know that they want people to do that.
mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, definitely early on in my career, that was something that I was just like, no way, I'm not talking to them. They don't want to talk to me. but no, like that's definitely if I had an opportunity to be on a show where Jake was at, I would absolutely ask him to give me any advice.
It sounds like it's probably an inevitability. Jake is still out there doing his thing, so I'm sure you two will cross paths here at some
Yeah.
point on a show. I do have to ask. You brought up something that is interesting. It was the topic of conversation a while back. Somebody took, an independent wrestler online to task about getting photos with a veteran or a guy who had been on TV. And X-Pac chimed in and said, "Nope, I've never minded when somebody takes a photo with me. If you're an independent wrestler and I'm on the show, please go ahead and ask." A lot of guys that I work with still have a hard time kind of crossing that boundary. What's your take on that whole situation and approaching, these Hall of Famers for pictures and whatnot?
When I first started, so I started wrestling. I started my training in 2004, and it was still very much a you do not ask people for pictures because then you are a mark.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, there's like I guess some people still haven't broken off of that, but I know that like at the start of the program, you said, I might not be the lower level guy anymore, but like it for me, it's one of those things where it's like I spent so long at the low level that now that people know me, it's just weird for me to think of myself as like a bigger name.
Hmm.
Um, but like I get people that come up to me and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm like Jack, I'm so sorry. Can I get a picture with you?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, of course. Like I would love to take a picture with you." And I think most people have that same mentality. The thing for me is like I just kind of forget to ask people to take pictures. Like I was doing a show in Wisconsin a few months ago, and I turned the corner and Chris Jericho's standing there because his band Quarantine was playing a concert that night. And like I went up to him, I shook his hand, and I was just like, I didn't even think to like, oh, I should have gotten a picture with him. But then like the next week, I was on a show with Bully Ray, and I was like, I got to get a picture with Bully Ray. That's like priority number one. But no, I think most guys, like, yeah, I mean, get the picture, because like there's so many guys that I remember being on shows with that I wish I had pictures with now that are no longer with us. So absolutely take the picture, because we only get to do this once. You never know how long your career is going to be. I thought my career ended, 10 years ago. So to have the opportunity to come back and to be on shows with these guys now, like, I'm going to take every opportunity that I can.
What made you think 10 years ago that your career would come to an end?
I had spent 10 years basically wrestling just in the Cincinnati area. And I kind of got stuck working for one company that ran every week. And when that happens, you get really complacent and you don't really search out bookings because you always have that booking.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of just got stuck. And then I think by the time that I left that company, I was so intimidated about going out and traveling. And because at that point I'd been wrestling for 10 years and was still like, nobody had ever heard of me outside of Cincinnati. So a lot of it was just intimidation. And I got to the point to where I was just really jaded and bitter about wrestling because, I'm a big guy. I had a good look at the time and I didn't quite have the gimmick, but I felt like I could get there. So it was just one of those things where I felt like I wasn't getting opportunities that I felt like I deserved. And I realize now how stupid of a mentality that is, because wrestling does not owe any of us anything. Like, none of us are entitled to be successful. It's all about doing it yourself and being in the right place at the right time. But yeah, it was basically just bitterness. And I had just gotten married at the time, about a year prior. So other things in my life had become more important to me. And, I thought that I was happy, I thought that I was content with where my career had gone, because I got to do some cool things, got to work with some big names and stuff. So I was content at the time, and then spent a few years away, and then it just slowly got like coerced into doing like a one-off show here and there. And then it became, oh, why don't you come do these shows like once a month for us? And then just the bug came back, and I was just like, all right, I'm back. And then I started to realize I didn't give it everything that I had. And that really was a regret that I had, was just not doing the damn thing.
Now, nowadays, you had said how you kind of had become complacent, and it's like you stopped looking for bookings. Nowadays, with you're an internet sensation, is it easier for you to find bookings? Do people come to you more often, or how does that work for you?
It's a good problem to have. I have not had to look for a booking in probably 2 years.
That's great, man.
Yeah, like I have one Saturday open for the rest of the year.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, it's been great. And like, it's one of those things where it's like, I get a lot of people on the internet that trash me because, oh, he's, I never see him anywhere other than OVW and stuff. But it's like, they don't follow me, so you're not going to see all the flyers and stuff that I post, and seeing me go all over the country and then to Europe and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's great. Like, it's become a very nice second income for me. It's not quite there to where I can quit my day job, but I'm getting to live the wrestling dream. I'm getting flown to places. I'm getting paid what I ask, and I'm getting to see the country. So, it might not be as lucrative as it, I would like it to be, but I'm having a hell of a lot of fun.
It's kind of cool. It's like you're like the modern day version of the territories guy, right? Where it's like this sort of mercenary for hire, consistent work, getting flown places, people know you, building your name.
Yeah.
It's you're in a good spot. All right, guys, time to take a quick break to talk about our incredible sponsor, MyBookie. There are a lot of really exciting things happening in the world of professional wrestling and sports coming up, and those things are getting even better with a little help from MyBookie. I mean, let's just start right here. The Clash in Paris is coming up this weekend, and brother, there's a lot of excitement and a lot of ways to make it even more exciting. You've got John Cena versus Logan Paul. It's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time on his farewell tour versus the viral megastar. You know, Cena's built his legacy over the course of a 20+ year career, and now he's facing down one of the dangerous newcomers there in the WWF. You know, people don't like him, but you have to put him over for his in-ring ability and his high-flying moves. And John Cena is going to have his hands full, and you can bet on the action with my bookie. I mean, how about Sheamus versus Rusev in a good old-fashioned Donnybrook match? They're going to be throwing down. So you got Seth Rollins versus CM Punk versus Jey Uso versus LA Knight in a fatal four-way with the World Heavyweight Championship on the line. And how about a couple of big boys out there slapping meat, as they say? You've got Roman Reigns versus Bronson Reed. I mean, on the surface, this thing couldn't get more exciting. However, now you can start placing bets. Match winners, method of victory, surprise run-ins. If it can happen in the ring, you can bet on it with my bookie. And all right, so that happens on August 31st, and then you flash forward 5 days, boom, it's NFL kickoff. I mean, there has never been a better time to place your bets and cash in. If you're trying to bet it all in one place, MyBookie is your headquarters. And if you're new to MyBookie, you can use our code SNAKE, and any bet you choose up to $500 is fully covered. So get over there, make your play, and if it doesn't hit, you get it right back when you opt in using your Bet Back bonus token. Again, if you're new, just use our code SNAKE and you get that $500 fully covered on any bet that you choose. The Clash in Paris is almost here. Football's on deck. It is a damn good time to be a bettor. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. I do want to rewind it a little bit. You said you started training back in 2004. Were you fresh out of high school at that time, or walk us through the decision to start training?
Pretty much fresh out of high school. I graduated the summer of 03 and started March of 04. And it really, people my age, I just turned 40, and my generation, a lot of us were into backyard wrestling. A lot of people had backyard wrestling leagues, and I was no different. Me and a bunch of my friends had one. And then, it's just one of those things that when we graduated, there was a bunch of us that actually wanted to go and get trained. And I saw there's a gentleman that went to the gym that I went to that saw an ad in the paper for a pro wrestling school that was being run by Shark Boy. And he knew that I wanted to get into wrestling, so he told me about it. And it was really simple. I just went to Shark Boy's website and signed up for it.
It's all right. Piece of cake. Easy as that.
Yeah. So definitely not as hard as it, but like, it's weird because back then the internet was still kind of in its infancy, but it was still like, there were still places I could go. And like, I remember the earliest thing that I remember is I was actually looking up Killer Kowalski's school. And because that was like the only one that I really knew of that was even semi close. And it's not close to Ohio, but it was like the closest one that I could think of. And then I started to do more research, and I realized, oh, well, there's like HWAs in Cincinnati and OVWs down in Louisville. There's actually all kinds of places. I just didn't know about them at the time.
So you were trained by Shark Boy, and what were the other names of the guys that trained you?
So I started with Shark Boy, and Shark Boys wasn't really a school. It was more like a training camp. It was like a set time, and then kind of designed to give you the basics, and then you went on to train with someone else. And that was with Roger Ruffin. He runs the Bone Crushers Wrestling Academy out of Cincinnati.
Now, one of the things I've found since I've gotten into wrestling is that it takes a while for guys to get it, for it to really kind of sink in and know your approach. There's so much that goes into it, right? Because it's like you got to have the promo, you've got to have the look dialed in, you've got to understand, obviously a lot of the basics, the moves and whatnot, and then it starts to get more nuanced where they're like, "Hey, you're going too fast out there," or "Hey, why'd you do this at this particular moment?" So when did you feel like? How many years in were you before you were like, "Okay, I've got a grip on this"?
I feel like the in-ring stuff always kind of came naturally for me. Obviously, you get better as time goes on. And I thought for the first 10 years before I retired I thought that I was really good. And then when I came back to wrestling, I realized how much I did not know. And I think really what happened was I started working with a company down here called FGW that are unfortunately not around anymore, but they were being run by Cody Hawk. For people that don't know Cody Hawk, he used to run HWA. He trained John Moxley, Sami Callihan, LA Knight. He's trained all kinds of people that we've definitely heard of. And he basically let me kind of figure out on the fly how to become less of a wrestler and more of a worker.
Mm.
And that was huge for me, just for him to like have that confidence in me to just like, hey, like not like you're gonna go out there, you might not know what you're doing. This might be a little bit different for you, but you'll figure it out. So he had the confidence in me to just kind of like, I guess, kind of throw me to the wolves and be like, hey, figure it out because you're good enough. You have the skills. You know how to do the moves. Your psychology's good. It's just figuring out, the little, like you said, the little nuances to turn you from a good wrestler to a great wrestler.
Who would you say were your influences or guys that you were borrowing from early on or still borrow from now?
Early on, the Undertaker has always been my favorite wrestler. So a lot early on, it was a lot of Undertaker, Kane, um, and then like as I got, Abyss was another big one for me. He actually came from the area that I'm in. He started with the same. He started with Roger Ruffin, so he was always around, and so he was a big influence on me. And then when I came back to wrestling and I came up with the veteran character, it was a lot of like Stan Hansen. It was a lot of JBL was a huge one for me. So it kind of just depends on what era of wrestling we're talking about. So like early on, it was like the big men, Undertaker, Kane, Abyss. And then as I got a little more comfortable with the character that I was doing with the veteran, it became just basically mostly like just old school guys. Like Arn Anderson was another big one for me. So
Rewind.
like the Smash Mouth '80s guys.
Now you are a big guy, good look, and obviously, a young man. You said it was coming to you fairly naturally. Were you getting some cool like opportunities early on in your career, or was it more of a struggle to kind of get yourself going while managing being you're turning into an adult during that era?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't really get a ton of opportunities, but it was because I was so complacent and doing those same shows every week that I didn't really look for them. I did try to take a few chances on myself, and I did a couple of the TNA gut checks around 2010, and I got some good feedback from D'Lo. He seemed to like what I was doing, but unfortunately, just didn't translate into anything bigger. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's like I really wrestled for probably 18 years before. Well, if you don't count if we include the time off that I took, the 18 years before I did anything that anyone had ever seen.
Now, you are a veteran. It's a shoot, not just the nickname. What when you see young wrestlers nowadays, what would you say is the biggest, most common mistake that a lot of the young guys are making out there?
I'm a big believer in that the moves that you do not matter. Like you can get a reaction from nothing as long as they're invested in you and invested in your character. You don't need to do moves. Like I posted a video a couple months ago. We got a whole the me and my opponent. We got a holy shit chant from a superplex, but it's just like that was the big spot of the match. But like in a normal match that you would see today, that's nothing. You know, and it's just because it was a hot crowd. They were really invested in what I was doing, what my opponent was doing. And yeah, that's my big thing is like one, slow down because we're always, even today, like I still feel like I'm always going too fast. But yeah, the big thing for me is just like, it doesn't matter what moves you do. Just get over with your character and the rest is history. Like that's why guys back in the day were able to wrestle, you know, 29 days out of the month, because they weren't taking all kinds of crazy bumps and they weren't, I mean, they were still working, they were still working hard, but people believed in what they were doing and they didn't have to do all those crazy bumps.
The person I always point to whenever young guys are saying like, "Hey, we should do like, I'll fucking moonsault to the outside on top of you." I'm like, "Have you ever watched Jim Duggan? Like, he used to just go out there and raise the thumb or say ho
Yeah.
or whatever, and just whip the crowd into a frenzy." Like, I feel like that's proof positive. Even nowadays, everybody's like, "Well, the business changed." I don't think human psychology really changes, though. I think that you can continue to sort of like manipulate the audience that way, and as you said, get a reaction, right?
I mean, the business has definitely changed, and there obviously everyone. It's like the old MJF quote where he said, "There's many different flavors of ice cream." That's totally true, and like you can like whatever kind of wrestling you want, but MJF was also able. He was also the guy that got a body slam over, a couple years ago. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, like if I don't think that you need to do moonsaults to the outside to get over, but like if you do, cool. But like that's just never been my approach. I never saw Stone Cold Steve Austin do a suicide dive.
What is the most high risk maneuver that you've done in your career?
So this was prior to the veteran. I would never do it today, but I did do. I don't even know what it's called because I don't really know what dives are called. But it was just I did do a front flip from the ring to the outside.
Man, and how tall are you?
6'6".
That's a hell of a feat for a man your size.
Yeah, that was probably 10 years ago too. So my knees and back were a lot better.
Now, did you like stick the landing? Do you land on your feet?
No, no, I didn't. But I did still have my glasses on, and
All
they
right.
stayed on during the dive.
Now that's remarkable.
That's
I
pretty
like
cool, right?
that's even better than landing on your feet, in my opinion.
Yeah, right.
Um, what do you consider some of your most notable matches so far in your career?
The last time that I won the OVW Heavyweight Championship, I believe it was January of 24. It was me and Tony Gunn, and that was the main event of TV that night. And it was probably a 25-minute match, and it was one of those matches where like we didn't get a lot of um, agenting for the match. It was basically just like, hey, you guys know what you're doing. Go out there. Here's what we need to get across. But other than that, go out there and just have a hell of a match. And whenever that's what they tell me, I'm like, hell yeah, like that's what I want to do. I know I can go out there and work and not have to worry too much about like getting over, whatever story they want to get over. So that was a big one for me. And then just some matches that I had a couple years ago. One with my buddy Jake Oman. He's a guy from Indianapolis, and it was at a company called White River Wrestling. And again, it was just like one of those like really good, just 20-minute, hard hitting matches. And Jake's been a good buddy of mine for years, so I know for any wrestler who's listening to this, you always know that when you're in the ring with your friends, you just beat the hell out of each other more so than you do anyone else. So it was just like really hard hitting, extra stiff on the chops and the kicks and the forearms. And yeah, it was just like a really good back and forth from top to bottom is one of my favorite matches.
Now, I think a lot of the listeners are going to want to know what are some of the quote unquote names, big names that you have had the opportunity to step into the ring with.
Oh, so like early on in my career, I got to work with guys like Abyss. Actually, Al Snow was the first name that I ever got to work with
How about that?
in a tag match. And then I got to work with Billy Gunn a couple times, Shane Helms. Um, Tatanka was a big one for me because Tatanka was that was in 2007, and he was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up. You know how there's like that meme about like you always have that one mid carder that he's like your ride or die. Tatanka was that guy for me.
Yeah.
And then honestly, like it's been great this last year. I mean, just within the past couple of years, like Matt Cardona, gotten to work with the System. I've actually gotten to work with Brian Myers a few times, and Swoggle, the Gun Club. Gosh, I got to work with the Good Brothers a couple months ago, which I grew up in the business with Carl Anderson, so that was just fun to like get in the ring with him again. God, I feel like I'm missing so many because like I feel like this year's been like really great. Just like I feel like every week I'm like, oh man, it's like another like big name guy, but like they're kind of escaping me right now. But yeah, the last few years have kind of been like a who's who of independent wrestling for
And
me.
you've been at it for 21 years, so I
Yeah,
can't even begin to imagine trying to go through that Rolodex of folks that you worked with.
right.
Um, Now, one of the things that's changing about the business nowadays is that, and of course, I work with Ted and Jake and Jim Duggan and a few other veteran guys, and all of them talk about how they can't stand going to a show and seeing these guys lay out step by step what they intend to do in the match. Where those guys always used to be like, "I'll see you in the ring," was always the approach. What was your approach from the start, and what is your approach now?
From the start, it was always kind of like because Shark Boy was one of those guys that was like he didn't call everything in the match, but it was definitely like, hey, let's have an idea of what we want for the beginning, let's have an idea for the comeback, and that was kind of it. So that was kind of my approach, and honestly, that's kind of still my approach. I can call it in the ring if I need to, but unfortunately, a lot of guys can't or just don't
Mm.
want to. Um, Actually, and this is going back to a previous question. One of my favorite matches that I've ever had was actually it was a roughly a 45-minute match that was all called on the fly, other than the finish, and that was at FGW back here in Hamilton, Ohio, a couple years ago. But yeah, I'm not necessarily called in the ring guy, but I can be if I need to be, because I grew up around guys that did it, so I kind of had to learn. But also, it's a lot of that is just I feel like a lot of guys just you know, if they don't know what they're doing, they just panic. Whereas it was never about knowing what you're doing; it's just about listening to what the crowd wants and giving it to them. So again, I can call it if I want to, but my approach has always just kind of been like, let's have an idea of what we want to do, kind of like bullet points. I like having bullet points, and then when it's time to go home, we go home. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a big convoluted, reversals and all this stuff for the comeback. It can just be like it can just be a standard comeback, and then you can pin me or I can pin you. I've always tried to the keep it simple, stupid method.
It's easier than, having
Yeah,
to remember all that stuff, I can say that, just listen to the guy. I will say though, I think that what most people are afraid of, at least me personally, now that I'm in there, is like I'm afraid that I'm going to be in there with some surly old veteran, and he's going to call some spot and be about to shoot me off or whatever. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck he just said, and so I know you're supposed to hang on to the ropes in that case,
yeah.
and force him to tell you again. But yeah, it's when did you kind of get over that fear of like, okay, I can handle this, and it's not that big of a deal if I don't hear the guy.
Honestly, it was when I started working as the veteran. So within the past like 5 years,
Ah,
not like I was always comfortable doing it. I knew that like it's one of those things where like I learned early on that if you have a bad match, it's not the end of the world. Like no one's going to remember it. Just move on, do better the next time. But it was really just within the last probably 5 years where I really feel comfortable just like knowing what I'm doing and knowing that like I can get over regardless of what moves I'm doing. Like I can get over with the crowd. I can get them to hate me. I can get them to cheer me. It's all just feeling it out, and it's just within the last like 5 years or so that I really started to feel really comfortable doing that sort of thing.
all right, guys, we have got to hit the timeout button so that we can talk about a sponsor that I know all of the men listening to this podcast love. Of course, I am talking about Blue Chew. Man, let me tell you, Blue Chew is not just a tablet. This is a straight up cheat code for your crotch. You want to get stronger, harder, longer lasting erections, brother? This is it. It's like somebody gave your wiener a pep talk down there because your guy is ready to go. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. So look, don't lie about it. We've all been there, guys. You're ready to go. Your partner's ready to go. You look down and your little pal there is just staring at the carpet. Like, what are you doing, man? Come on, dude. Give me a break. Get up here. Let's go. We got work to do. And it won't listen. We've all been there. Well, Blue Chew is the solution. We're going to get that thing so hard you could go hunting with it. You are going to love Blue Chew just like I do. And let me say, your partner is going to love it too. This isn't just about performance. This is about a legacy, or third legacy, if you will. Give her group chat something to talk about, man. We all know that those girls are in their group chats and everything that happens is being discussed, whether you like it or not. Why don't you give them something good to talk about? Nothing makes you more of a legend than a little bit of Blue Chew. Discover your options at bluechew.com. And look, we've got a special deal for our listeners. We're giving out boners for free, man. As always, you can get your first month of Blue Chew free when you use our promo code SNAKE. That's SNAKE, SNAKE. Pretty appropriate for Blue Chew, if you ask me. All you got to do is use that promo code at checkout and pay $5 for shipping. That's it. Free boners sent straight to your house. I mean, come on, man. You got to at least give this thing a try. It's free. If you haven't tried it, you have no idea what you're missing out on. This could seriously be the best sex you have ever had in your entire life, and you're just letting it breeze right past you. Why? Because you don't want to pay the $5 shipping? Give me a break. Come on, give this a shot. Join Blue Chew's mission to upgrade humanity one thrust at a time. Let them know that we sent you. Head over to bluechew.com for details and safety information. Whenever you check out, make sure that you use our promo code SNAKE, and that's it, just $5 shipping. And before we go, of course, I want to give a big thanks to Blue Chew for sponsoring the Snake Pit. Now, I do have to ask, since we're on this subject, what is the worst ring mishap that you've ever experienced? Any big flub or embarrassing moment, something like that?
I was actually just talking about this with a guy recently. It wasn't me. It was actually him in our match. But we did a spot. This is early on, so this is like 2006 or something like that. And he did some sort of dive out of the ring onto me, and it actually broke the drawstring in his pants. So the rest of the match, he's like pulling his pants up because they're just falling down. And at the end of the match, he was going to come off the top of an axe handle, and I was going to catch him in a choke. And the finish was just going to be like, I just don't let go of the choke, and the match gets thrown out and stuff like that. But as soon as he landed from that axe handle, his pants just hit the floor, like straight, just straight up. And he told me, because I actually saw him this past Saturday because we were talking about it, and he was like, he's like, earlier in that day, I was legitimately thinking about wearing my girlfriend's thong to the ring under my gear. And it's a good thing he didn't do that, because that would have been, I mean, it would have made the story even better now. Probably a little bit more embarrassing for him back then. But like the one that was recent, it's so stupid. I was on a fair show, and it wasn't like a great show. It's honestly kind of embarrassing. But like I did a deal where I gave a guy a bump, and then I just did a thing where like I stepped on him to get over him. And when I planted my right foot, I rolled my ankle and had a sprained ankle.
Oh,
yeah. It's always on the dumbest things that you hurt yourself. Always. And then a year and a half ago, I guess it was May of last year. One of the cool things that I could still do is I could skin the cat. So I was wrestling a show in Montreal, did a spot, got the guy out of the ring. I skinned the cat, and I realized my shoulder's out of socket.
wow.
I dislocated my shoulder skinning the cat.
How did you get it back in?
Honestly, I just kind of did like a little windmill motion, and it went right back in. So it obviously wasn't out that bad, but like I definitely felt it come out and then go back in.
I was really hoping you were going to say you had that Mel Gibson moment where you like slam it against the wall and get it back where it needs to be.
So I posted a video of me when it happened, and the first thing I did was like just start punching myself in the shoulder, thinking like, oh, cool, I just got to get it right back in. Probably not the smartest idea. But yeah, I was like, I punched it a couple times and realized it wasn't doing anything. So I just kind of did like this kind of motion. And I was like, oh, okay, we're back in. That's great. But I actually, if I could be wrong, but like over the course of the match, because I probably wrestled for another 5 to 7 minutes, it felt like it went out and back in a couple more times.
That feels like it's once it comes out the first time, it might be easier and easier for it to keep happening. So it hasn't happened to you since?
No, thankfully. No,
Right,
I went to physical therapy and worked on it. And now I don't quite have the same range of motion as I used to, but the strength is definitely back. But they did tell me, like, now that this has happened, it's likely that it could happen again. So that sucks, but it is what it is.
While we are on the subject, I do have to ask, what is, over a 20-plus year career, what is the worst injury that you have ever taken?
So I've been very lucky in that the dislocated shoulder probably was the worst one, but I've had some back issues in the past because I broke my tailbone as a kid, and I actually remember it was the last match that I had in 2023. The night before I had a ladder match, so I was already kind of favoring my back anyway because it was sore. But I gave a guy a superplex, and I've had like the things where like I kind of feel that shooting pain in my back kind of locks up, but this was like way worse somehow. So I got in my car, and in the 5 minutes it took me to stop at the local Fazoli's to get some food, my body just like completely locked up to where even just getting out of my car was extremely painful. And over the next probably 2 weeks, just like getting out of bed was an ordeal. There was times when I would stand up, I would just get like, it felt like lightning shooting through my body for about 5 seconds. And I thought like legitimately, like there's something seriously wrong with me. I need to go get this checked out. Luckily, a lot of stretching and a lot of anti-inflammatories did the trick.
Now, what is your maintenance routine to keep yourself in top physical? You said you're 40. So what are you doing now to ensure that you can stay injury free?
So I actually started working with a personal trainer about a year ago. I started working with Cesar Bononi. A lot of wrestlers work with him, and I just follow what he says. I've the diet plan. I try to stick to it as much as I can. The workouts are, I mean, they're tough, but they're kind of tailored around the injuries that I've had and the soreness that I have. So I'm not doing any more damage. But and then anytime I can't wrestle unless I stretch. So I probably spend a good 20-30 minutes stretching out like my lower back and my groin and like specific areas that have given me problems in the past. So yeah, it's mostly just diet, exercise, and stretching. It's the same thing it's always been for most guys.
I've got to ask about diet because, brother, that has been so far. I started wrestling. I started training in March of 2024, and I was like, I'm gonna get in the best shape of my life, and I've done it. But the diet has been the worst part of it. It's so hard to stick to.
Yeah.
What is it that you're doing in order to like walk us through, like, breakfast, lunch, dinner? What kind of stuff are you eating?
So he kind of gives me options. My breakfast and then my late snack are always the same. So my breakfast is like eggs, a couple bagels, some jam, and a banana. And then my lunch, he gives me options, but I usually just kind of stick to the standard chicken, broccoli, and rice just because it's easy to make a ton of it. And then my snack is Greek yogurt, oats, honey, and almonds. So it's like a nice little like a yogurt smoothie kind of thing. Um, and honestly, that's kind of been how it's been since almost since the beginning that I started working with them. But like the big thing for me, I think it was just I have to be accountable because I'm paying for it now. You know, it's much easier to stray when I'm not paying somebody to train me. But no, like I get it, man, because like I struggled. You know, growing up, I was overweight, and when I got into my mid 20s, I got into like crazy good shape, just being like super lean, but I didn't have any muscle. So I was just like a skinny dude with abs. And, that didn't look good either. For a wrestler, for a guy that's 6'6", I was just super gangly. Um, and yeah, I mean, diet has always been the hardest part, I think, for probably everybody. I've always loved going to the gym and working out. So it really is just like trying to fine tune the diet because I think a lot of us have an idea of what a good diet is, but once I started working with Caesar, I realized how little I understood about how much like how many calories and how many carbs and stuff my body needed because I'm eating roughly 500 carbs a day and I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. Whereas, in my head, like that sounds like 300 too many. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because a lot of us just don't have that knowledge of proper diet.
So definitely worthwhile to get like a personal trainer, if you're a wrestler and kind of really dial it in. That's sort of where I struggle, where it's like, well, I'm supposed to eat a lot of protein and vegetables and maybe sprinkle in some carbs here and there. But you're saying like you don't have to necessarily go carb free to get the right body, huh?
That's what's worked for me. I mean, obviously everybody's different. You
Mhm.
know, some people have different tolerances for stuff like that. But yeah, when and I will say like it took me a while before I really started to see the results that I wanted. But I stuck with it. It was probably 4 or 5 months before I realized, oh, okay, I'm actually starting to see like some more definition. Obviously, my strength had started going up, but yeah, I mean, it is a long process. But if you have the time and you have, you know, it's it does cost money. It's not like it's not a free service that he's offering. It's what he does for a living. So it does cost. But if you have the means to do it, then yeah, it's been worked wonders for me.
We'll do a couple more and then I'll let you go. I appreciate your
Yeah.
time today. I'm curious. You're making a lot of towns and meeting a lot of guys. Who would you say are some guys to be on the lookout for on the independent scene that you've been around?
So whenever people ask me that a lot, I always just want to put over my friends. So you
Go
know,
ahead.
yeah, I mean, like just my good buddies. Like I always put over guys like Jake Oman, Aaron Williams, Lord Crew. Um, People probably already heard of Carson Drake. He's with NWA.
Hmm.
Dalton McKenzie. He's done some tag team stuff with me. Love Dalton. But then like I also like obviously like Richard Holiday has been tearing it up on the Indies. I love what he's doing. So
Yep.
um, I mean, and like Richard and I, like we're friends, but we're not like super tight. But like you look at what he's doing, you can't deny that like he's on like one of the hottest runs. I mean, he's probably like honestly, in my opinion, is probably like the hottest independent wrestler in the country right now.
I'd agree.
Yeah, and then I know like some people think that Big Ben, and I kind of have a feud because we both kind of do the TikTok thing, but like Ben Bishop, like he and I are buddies, and we've worked together a few times. Obviously, he's making waves doing what he's doing. So, yeah, I mean, there's another guy, Bruce Hamilton. If people don't know him, I believe he's from he wrestles all in the Chicago area. He is a former strongman, and he is a little bit older. I think he's in his late 30s, but he has been doing crazy stuff, working for all the big companies in the Chicago area. So yeah, definitely look into Bruce Hamilton as well.
Okay. And I know that you just I think I just saw this recently online. Did you just win the OVW tag team titles?
So I did, and then I lost them the following Thursday.
Ah, okay.
Not my fault. I won them. I'm the one that won them, but then my
Mhm.
partner's the one that lost them. That's how it
That
always works.
that was the impression I got. Maybe a little
Yep.
heat between you and the tag team partner.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see where
I
that
didn't like
goes.
them to begin with. They kind of just stuck us together. And then we won the titles because of me, and then he lost them.
Well, so what's next for you, and where can people find your stuff? Put over whatever you want. This is your moment here at the end of the show.
Yeah. So all of my social media stuff is almost all of it is under at vet Jack Vaughn. As far as where you can see me, every Thursday, OBW has their TV tapings. They're free and live streamed on YouTube, or if you're in the Louisville area, you can come to that. Uh, Saturday, the 30th, I'm going to be in Wisconsin for Frontline Pro. And the following Saturday, I'll be in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. I'll be wrestling Silas Young. And then, yeah, I mean, you can check out my schedule, just vetjackvaughn.com. I keep all my dates on there.
What about shirts, stuff like that? If people want to buy shirts
Oh
or get
yeah,
an autograph or
yeah.
something.
So I mean, obviously, if you're at a show and that I'm on, I have stuff. But yeah, prowrestlingtees.com for all my t-shirts. Or you honestly just hit me up if you're interested. I have 8x10 stickers, whatever you want that I have. Like, just hit me up. I'll figure out a way to get it to you.
All right, guys, go out of your way to follow Jack. He's been incredible here. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. And yeah, dude, we'll have to do this again sometime. I hope you come and work in the Pittsburgh area sometime. I'm out of this area. It'd be cool to get to meet. I'll get a photo with you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, actually, I was in Pittsburgh earlier in the year for WrestleRex. So
Oh,
I'm
no
hoping
way.
that I hope they do some